to the People Pleaser podcast. I am Corie, your host, and I'm just happy to be here. Happy to be amongst my people pleasers. And yeah, what's an update for you? I've been just really loving this platform, just getting more and more familiar with the technology and just the different bits and bobs that come along with podcasting. It's a completely new realm, and it's one that I truly dove into with no preparation. I literally pressed record on a voice memo and published it. So there has been some stress along the way, but that just kind of comes with the territory of trying something new. In my personal life, I am moving and my life is feeling a little chaotic. I haven't shared too much about me as a human, but I am moving into a smaller space, and I'm seeing it as a bit of a transitional move because there's actually a bigger move that is happening probably in under a year, where my husband and I will be living together. We are living in two different countries as of right now, so the end goal is to live in the same country. And so this move that is happening April 1st is a step towards that, even though it doesn't, necessarily seem that way. But I'm downsizing. Some of my things are going to my husband's place, and I'm really just bringing what I need. So it's been an interesting process of like looking at all my things and realizing there's so little that I actually need. And yeah, I've just been, I don't know, like as soon as I know that I'm moving, I get into the headspace of moving. So I've been packed or packing for a month. So I am looking forward to just having this done, this over and done with. I just released a podcast this morning, actually, episode 7 on people pleasing and friendships. And up until this week, I have been releasing 2 episodes a week. And that was mostly due to just excitement and ideas. And I am now going to pull back and be publishing 1 episode a week because that's just a much more manageable amount of work and time and energy and space, all those things. And yeah, there's just no need to really rush it. I'm happy with what I've put out so far, and my hope is that by slowing down, I can continue to just focus on quality over quantity. The topic I want to bring in is feedback. Giving and receiving feedback as a people pleaser and what that looks like. So where I really want to start is this common sentiment that I have been seeing more and more of online on, through different memes and different online content, where there has been the shared experience of feeling like you're in trouble when you're called into a meeting with your boss, or someone initiates a conversation with like, hey, can we talk? Or, hey, are you free on such and such date, but with not really giving any context. And a recent meme that kind of caught my eye and has inspired this episode was a screenshot of a Google Calendar or Outlook calendar invite. It was like an employee receiving it from their boss. And it was like initiating a meeting, but in the invite description, it said, it's good news, or it's a good thing, something of that effect. And I really resonated with that because and I'm sure a lot of you listening can relate, When I am asked to come to a meeting, or if the intention of an invite is unclear, I immediately go into this place of, oh my God, I'm in trouble. Oh my God, I'm going to get fired. Oh my God, I did something wrong. Always. And what I'm seeing kind of societally is that people are learning that they need to kind of soften and contextualize some of these invites, because so many of us are having these anxious reactions, these fear-based reactions to some of these invitations. So I just want to really put that out there, that like, if this is something that you too experience, you are not alone. And I don't really know. I mean, I guess if I were to speak to that a little bit more, it definitely comes from an anxious place. It comes from a like low self-esteem, kind of a self-deprecating place where we assume we've done something wrong. We're kind of assuming some kind of guilt or responsibility. For me, I am someone who talks a lot. I can have some big opinions, or I'm I'm that's so funny to think about this, because sometimes in a work setting, I have no problem speaking freely. I have no problem voicing my opinions, voicing my concerns. But what ends up happening, and there's probably language for this that I don't just fully know, but I'll be very vocal, very vulnerable, very like easy to share, very honest. But then I will leave and I'll be like, oh my gosh, like, did I just dissociate? Like, what did I just say? Was I talking too much? Did I maybe offend someone? Like, oh, I noticed somebody made that weird look at me. Like, are they mad at me? So it's like this really weird mix of feeling like really confident and emboldened, passionate about what I'm talking about. And then it's met with like, ooh, Corie, you've said too much. You've gone too far. And having this kind of like internal battle with myself, where if I'm feeling confident, my brain is tricking me into thinking that I shouldn't. If I'm feeling passionate about something, my brain is telling me, oh, you were talking too loud, you were talking too quickly. If I have a strong stance about something, if I make, an opinion, known in a group setting, I will then kind of come back to, I've spoke with this about this in a previous episode, where it's like, ooh, but now I'm creating a line. There's a divisiveness. There's like oh, I'm in this camp and I'm sticking my flag in it and I'm standing by that, as if it's like impenetrable. Like all of a sudden that is who I am. That's identity forming. And so there is this internal battle that I really do see, where my confidence is often met with this inner critic that is just not kind. And so bringing this into the conversation of feedback, again, a lot of these opportunities where we're possibly on the receiving end of feedback, for me, triggers all those same fears. Like, oh no, are they mad at me? Oh no, did I say something to upset them? Oh no, like, what have I done? What could this possibly, it's gotta be bad. There's no way this feedback could be good. It's gotta be bad. And just assuming the absolute worst in myself. And I'm supposed to be like my own number one advocate, and I often find myself being like my own worst enemy. I can really speak to performance reviews at work. Like, those are so nerve-wracking for me. Even when I'm constantly self-reflecting on the work I do, the feedback I'm receiving. Like I work with clients. So, I mean, if a client doesn't like me, I I know pretty much right away. And not to just like toot my own horn here, but like toot toot, I don't really get negative feedback from my clients. Like for the most part, the feedback I'm receiving from clients is very positive. There are definitely times where I have received, you know, I haven't had like the most perfect experience with a client, but that's okay. Like that happens in relationships. And it's an opportunity for me to kind of see what's mine and see what's theirs. So, anyways, even though for the most part I am navigating the world and I am very self aware and I'm in my body, I'm in these connections, I'm in these relationships, and I'm feeling like on a day-to-day basis, I'm doing good work. I'm making good connections, or even, even in non-work related settings. It's like, no, I'm for the most part getting along with people. I'm, I'm building positive experiences with people. I'm generally getting along with people. As soon as it comes to this more formalized experience of receiving feedback, it's like I've forgotten all of that. And I'm assuming that there's been all these conversations happening behind my back. There's things that I've just missed that, I'm lacking this self-awareness completely. And they must have like all these horrible things to say about me. And the saddest part about this is that I don't even really have like those experiences to kind of substantiate these fears. Like I haven't had like these big negative experiences of having like all this negative feedback given to me. So it's truly just embedded in like anxiety and like this sort of people pleasing, perfectionistic type thinking. And so receiving feedback is something that really does ramp up my anxiety. And I really am not my my own best friend in those situations. And then I'm also noticing that I really hold back from giving feedback. And I talked about this a little bit in the friendship episode where I it's not that I don't have feedback. It's not that I haven't had like examples of things that maybe didn't land for me, that didn't sit right for me, that, would benefit from me giving that feedback. But because there's this fear of upsetting someone, offending someone, creating discomfort in our relationship or our rapport, it can be so challenging to give feedback. And I have had a few examples, and this is a professional example, where I've really struggled to give direct feedback. However, I have gone to like higher ups to give feedback to hopefully then get their support to give the feedback to like, say, my direct supervisor. And these experiences, oh man, like it's such a tricky thing because I do really appreciate the accessibility of this type of support, like speaking to somebody who's a little more removed from the situation, who can kind of just hear me out. And I've come to, a point in my life where I'm not necessarily asking them to fight my battles for me. I'm not asking them to address it, but I am asking for them to resource me with the skills to conduct myself in those harder conversations. But what has happened for me in this type of dynamic is I will seek that guidance from the higher up, and then I am like sick with guilt because I have now talked behind someone's back. And then there's this fear that lives within me that they may find out, their higher, like the higher up might now speak to them directly and say, oh, this feedback came from Corie. And there's just this huge amount of fear and anxiety that I've now gone behind their back, but they've then become privy to some of this information and they're holding that against me silently. Because, also too, like in a lot of these professional settings, consent is important and privacy and confidentiality is important. But there's a part of me that doesn't really trust those systems, or I've seen them break down and not be as effective as they claim to be. So there's a big piece of me that recognizes that I'm still not really doing this well, and I'm not doing this as effectively as I'd like to. And I know that this fear of discomfort, this fear of upsetting someone, this fear of just being in conflict, and I say conflict because in the sense that like conflict is a real spectrum. Like we can have small conflicts that are really easily resolved, and then of course there's the other extreme of like really large conflict. But for the most part, I am doing everything in my power to avoid even just the smallest conflict, the smallest maybe disagreement. This could also be like, hey, you said these things and it just didn't sit well with me. And instead of necessarily telling them that they're wrong or that that they're disrespectful, it's more just giving them the feedback of how I received it. And to maybe just learn more about the situation, to learn more about where they were coming from. Because oftentimes there's just misunderstandings that exist. So the art of receiving feedback is truly an art, and the art of giving feedback is truly an art. And I know that my people pleasing really comes into play in these scenarios. And it's just becoming increasingly uncomfortable. And I'm getting to the place where I'm just uncomfortable with holding so much in and feeling as though I've already decided there's no point in bringing this feedback up. And then that leads to all kinds of problems down the road. Currently, in my current job, I haven't developed a safe way to give and receive feedback to my manager. And it has often led me to venting about it a lot. I'll vent to my husband, I'll vent to my coworkers, and honestly, as much as venting can be helpful to kind of get clear on what it is that I'm upset about, what it is that's not sitting well, I'm not then taking that and taking that as, okay, I've processed these emotions and now I'm going to go address them. They often just live in that in-between space where they're just completely left to stew, sit in the dark by themselves. And then if there's another moment, it's kind of like compounding all these things on top of each other. I'm just wondering if this is a common experience and if you can relate to this in your people pleasing. The type of person I want to be is an honest person, a transparent person, like someone that has nothing to hide. I don't want to have secrets about other people. I don't want to be harboring resentments about other people. I want to be confident and saying, you know what, that just didn't sit well with me, or I don't really understand that, or can you tell me more about what you meant? While also being able to receive the feedback, to be able to have these honest conversations where even if even if I'm saying like, yeah, most of the feedback I get is positive, I also want to invite the constructive feedback, the maybe what doesn't feel as positive, because it's not just about inflating my ego forever and ever and trying to fool myself into thinking that I do no wrong and that I never upset anyone and I never offend anyone, or that, I don't want to hold myself to this standard of perfection. And so sometimes our best feedback, or our best opportunities to grow and learn, is from feedback, is from people who know us the best, from people who see us in different settings. It's how we grow, it's how we learn, it's how we change, it's how we expand. And we can only do so much self-reflection, I think. I mean, I think self-reflection is really important and positive, and finding tools that support your own self-discovery process, whether that's journaling or working with a therapist or whatever it may be. But I think that we shy away from that raw, unfiltered feedback, giving and receiving. And I do think we do so much to protect our egos. And oftentimes we can confuse discomfort with a lack of safety. And those things can, like they can eat, like discomfort can lead to a lack of safety. But in the examples I'm thinking of in my own life, it's mostly discomfort. And I actually want to have the capacity to manage discomfort. I want to be able to rub up against it and know that I can be supported through that, whether it's on my own, with my own resources and tools, or by the people who are giving me that feedback. And I think a big piece with feedback too is asking permission. If you have feedback to give to someone, saying, hey, I'd like to give you some feedback. Are you open to that? Or is this an okay time? Do you have the capacity today? Is there a time that would be better? And just finding that balance of like having your needs met while also tending to the needs of those you're in relationship with. I also know for me, an example has been with like, hey, like, do you have a minute? And how do I, those examples of people who like, someone might text you and they'll be like, hey, are you busy? And maybe you are busy, but you're like, yeah, what's wrong? And they'll be like, oh no, if you're busy, don't worry about it. We can talk about it later. And then it's like, no. I need to know now. Like, tell me what is going on now. When really the other person is trying to be like really accommodating, and they're like, I have a need, but I don't want to like, just bulldoze into your day. I want to find the right time to talk about this, but I'm also trying to give you a sense that it is important that I talk about this, but I don't want to be a burden or an imposition. But then the person on the other side is like, no, now I'm full of anxiety and I need to know what it is that you want. And I've been in situations like that, mostly with romantic partners in the past, where, if there's a bit of turmoil at the time, some conflict at the time, I so badly want to solve it like then and there. And not everything has to be resolved in the moment. Some things can take their time, and you can prepare yourself in a better way if you make the right accommodations. So yeah, just giving those accommodations. I really did like that example of the Outlook calendar invite. Like, it's good news. Like, if there are ways that we can kind of initiate this request by also like saying, it's not urgent, or it's a good thing, or Just prefacing it in a way that maybe doesn't invoke anxiety. Of course, we don't have control over other people's anxiety, but just something to be mindful of. Giving and receiving feedback. That is something that it's something that I am actively working on. And to know too that like sometimes the feedback, like it hits you, like if someone is giving me feedback, it may hit a feeling or a nerve. I may be triggered by it. And it is a process of like uncovering, like, okay, this hurt my feelings, or I'm feeling triggered by this. Is it actually what is being said? Or is it my association or my connotation with what's being said? Is this feeding into a narrative I've created? Like, say, for example, someone's giving me feedback that I took up too much airtime and that they didn't feel heard in our conversation. Is that hard for me to hear because I've always been told I talk too much? I've always been told that I am too much, that I take up too much space, that I'm too loud, that I'm too overpowering. Like, is that this friend's responsibility? Should I be taking all that years of, all those other experiences out on this friend who's just trying to say, hey, I just didn't really feel heard on our walk the other day, right? So those moments of self-reflection are so important. And knowing what you need, knowing how to take care of yourself when you're receiving feedback. Saying, you know what, I need some time to think about this. I need some time to process this before I have a response. So this is people pleasing adjacent, because I think that a lot of this has to do with boundaries. A lot of this has to do with people pleasing. A lot of this has to do with anxiety, some perfectionism. Again, just trying to normalize some discomfort in relationships and seeing it as opportunities to deepen and expand these connections, to build that trust, and to build appropriate boundaries and supports around you to be able to give and receive this feedback. I'd love to hear your thoughts on giving and receiving feedback. I know that this is likely something that, maybe resonated in different ways. If you have any specific examples where, you've given or received feedback and just kind of what that process has been like, or if you are just an all-star feedback giver or receiver, teach us your ways, please. So thank you so much for listening today. I'd love to hang out with you over on Instagram at peoplepleaser.pod. That's at peoplepleaser, all one word, .pod. And thanks for being here, y'all. It's been a pleasure, and I will catch you on the next episode. Bye.